Some people build quiet wealth in 2026 without chasing hot stocks or working 80-hour weeks. It's not because they got lucky or had insider tips. It's because they follow a few old Great Depression money rules that inflation still can't easily break. Nearly half of households still can't cover a $400 emergency, and inflation makes that gap feel personal. If you wait to save until the month feels easy, you never start. You watch the calendar, and the calendar wins. Think about a 1930s worker dropping a few coins into a jar every week, no drama. You do the same thing in 2026 with an automatic transfer on payday. The amount isn't the point, it's the habit. Here's the pattern. The rule that looks too small is the one you actually keep. Groceries swing, insurance resets, utilities jump, and volatility punishes you when you live on the edge. If your car repair hits the same week your rent jumps, you don't get a vote. If you have no buffer, you borrow at 25% APR and call it normal. Depression-era families kept envelope cash for essentials because surprises were constant. You modernize it with a high-yield savings buffer sized to 1 month of core bills. The cash isn't idle, it's anti-debt insurance. The buffer isn't fear, it's leverage. Food inflation doesn't need to spike to hurt you, because small weekly increases compound like interest in reverse. Think about it like this: you're prepaying tomorrow's prices at today's discount. Depression households bought flour, beans, and soap in larger quantities when they could, because the pantry was the plan. You do it in 2026 by tracking unit price and stocking shelf-stable staples during real promotions. The key is discipline, not drama. Don't bulk buy what you won't use. Unit cost wins. Hoarding loses. That's why the next rule is about what you don't buy. Replacement costs in appliances, cars, and home services have climbed faster than wages in a lot of categories. If you replace a $600 item every 2 years, you're locking in inflation again and again. You're basically subscribing to higher prices. During the Depression, you mended, swapped parts, and stretched what you had because cash was scarce. You copy the strategy in 2026 by learning one basic repair skill, using local repair shops, and keeping a small maintenance fund. The cheapest item isn't the one on sale, it's the one you already own. Frugality isn't deprivation, it's extending the life of your cash. Buy now, pay later exploded, and delinquency has been rising right along with it, because math eventually collects. If your small payments stack across 4 apps, your future paycheck is already spent. You feel flexible, but you're actually boxed in. Depression households leaned on layaway or saving first because debt was a trap with better marketing today. You run a 48-hour rule for wants, and you build a sinking fund for planned purchases. Here's why it matters. Inflation plus interest is a double tax. The key is you stop financing lifestyle and start financing stability. Here's what makes it work. You keep your options. Rent resets, property taxes creep, and insurance increases hit like a surprise bill you didn't order. Housing isn't a flex, it's your biggest risk container. Think about it like this: housing is the ship and everything else is cargo, and if the ship leaks, nothing matters. During the Depression, families went multi-generational or took in a boarder because stability beat pride. You translate that in 2026 by choosing a payment you can handle even after a 10 to 15% cost shock, or by house hacking responsibly. The goal isn't the nicest place, it's the most controllable monthly burn. The next rule is how you keep your money from silently leaking out. Most people underestimate discretionary spending by a meaningful margin, and that's before prices start creeping. If you can't name your top 3 spending categories, inflation will choose them for you. You'll swear you don't spend that much, while your bank statement quietly disagrees. Depression-era households kept ledgers because guessing was expensive. You do 1 month of ruthless tracking in 2026, then you cut or renegotiate the top 2 leaks like subscriptions, fees, and delivery. The tracking isn't forever, it's a diagnostic scan. The budget isn't a cage, it's a map. Here's the pattern. Awareness creates instant raises. Real wages get squeezed, and a single paycheck concentrates risk in one place: your employer's mood. If your employer freezes raises during inflation, your purchasing power drops without permission. You work the same hours and afford less, which is a fun trick. During the Depression, people stacked odd jobs, gardens, and small services because one income was fragile. You do a low drama stream in 2026 like reselling, a weekend service, or digital freelancing, and you aim it at covering one bill. You're not trying to get rich fast. You're trying to reduce fragility. That's why the next rule is about owning assets that don't ask permission to grow. Rental and service fees keep rising, from tools and equipment to software you barely notice renewing. Renting isn't cheaper. It's paying inflation every time you need the thing. Think about it like this. You're buying the same hammer over and over, just with nicer receipts. Depression households shared and owned durable tools because repeat costs were the enemy. You do it in 2026 by buying quality for items you use repeatedly, and borrowing for rare use. The key is utilization. If you'll use it 10 plus times, price it like an asset. Here's the pattern. Durability beats novelty. Average credit card APRs have hovered around the 20% range, and minimum payments can stretch a balance for years. If inflation rises and your essentials cost more, your manageable balance becomes permanent. You don't fall behind in one day. You just stop catching up. Depression survivors avoided long consumer debt because it turned bad months into bad decades. You follow a simple hierarchy in 2026. Kill high-interest debt first. Avoid long terms on depreciating items. And only use debt when it increases earning power or lowers fixed costs. Debt isn't a tool if it owns your calendar. Now let's talk about the rule that makes investing feel almost unfair. Premium branding often outpaces real quality improvements, especially when inflation gives companies cover to push prices. Status isn't taste, it's a tax you volunteer to pay. Think about it like this. Status is the most expensive subscription because it never ends. Depression-era buying was about function and longevity, because replacement was the real luxury. You do it in 2026 by choosing fewer, better items with low replacement frequency and ignoring trend cycles. Here's the consequence reversal. Spending more once can be cheaper than spending less repeatedly. The key is you buy performance, not applause. The number one rule is the one that turns all these savings into actual wealth. Long-term inflation has averaged a few percent a year, and long-term diversified market returns have historically been higher, which is why time matters more than prediction. The market isn't a slot machine. It's a compounding machine, but only if you feed it. If you save $300 a month and leave it in low-yield cash, inflation quietly moves the finish line backward. You feel responsible, yet you're running in place. Depression survivors didn't chase hype. You saw them buy war bonds, pay down a mortgage early, and prioritize ownership because stability was the point. You translate that in 2026 with automated investing into diversified low-cost index funds, plus a simple split, emergency cash for shocks, and long-term assets for growth. The investing isn't about motivation. It's about default settings. Automation beats motivation, and consistency beats genius. Here's the pattern across every rule you just heard. You reduce fragility first, so compounding can finally do its job. If you build buffers, kill leaks, and stop financing once, you create surplus. If you create surplus, you can buy real assets on schedule. And if you buy real assets on schedule, inflation stops being the villain and starts being background noise. If this list opened your eyes to how old school money rules can still beat inflation in 2026, subscribe for more practical strategies you can actually use. I'm Name, and I'll see you in the next video.